guys? Welcome back to Shank, where we tackle questions about sports that aren't raised nor explored enough as far as we can tell. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkShank and email us at thethinkshank@gmail.com. I'm Skyler Reinhardt, your personal NBA junkie, philosopher, and tour guide, and today, oh boy, we are doing it half for clout and half for sanity because there has been there's just been a lot that's happened and a lot to reflect on and a lot to sort of explore and analyze. So all of this excitement and intensity for the last third of the season, more or less, are kind of killing me. And if you're watching this in the future, you can probably notice there's a lot I want to get off my chest. So you can find me personally on Twitter at Reinhardt Skyler. That's ReinhardtSkyler, no A's, and Instagram at Skyler Sam, SAM Reinhardt. So what we want to do here is what I'm calling winter break takes. Obviously a reference back to school. Winter over there is, it's a little bit sided as well, but it's not perfectly even. Same thing with this. We have played about a little more than 2/3 now of the regular season, and so the original vision for this series was to get it out before the conclusion of All-Star break. Clearly was not able to do that, having a day job and learning this super fun, realm and skill set, basically, with producing video is what it is. So sorry I'm a little bit late, but I really, really think that this series, while it is pretty dense and pretty detailed, I think it is going to be very insightful, even with a lot of the statistics pulling from kind of Wednesday, Thursday last week, right before we were supposed to resume. But directionally, thematically, I really, really think this is going to be insightful for everyone. All right. So concept here, winter break takes, is to pump the brakes and take a look around. We want to answer this question. What have we seen from this year's contenders so far? And here's a framework that I developed to motivate the answer for it. So number one, the storylines for each of the contending teams, what is kind of defined, trades, emojis, whatever. The finalized rosters, glimpses of the strengths, weaknesses that have stuck out to me, both on the court as well as intangibles. And then, of course, the improvement areas to close out in the regular season. So I have, verbally, audio, video, I want to walk through sort of my thoughts and everything there. But importantly, I want to call out, check the pinned files on my socials. So I will be uploading these sort of one-page summaries, executive summaries, if you will. That's going to organize a lot of my findings in the format that I just outlined for each one of the contending teams. I just wanted one view for each of the teams. If you don't have time to listen to all this stuff, and I know it's pretty dense and pretty long, so I am not going to take it personally, but I am just a very, very passionate believer and harbor of radical transparency. I think it is amazing that people, talk about things and bring up statistics and bring up analysis and things like that. But personally, I just find it really hard to keep things straight and actually log things. And so, it's not necessarily about dumping a bunch of stuff on you. I just want there for reference. So if you, of course, want to scrub through this video or episode, or not the episode, you just play which episode you want, but if you want to just check out those files and take a look there as well, there probably will be a little bit more detail than I'm going to cover even in each one of these episodes, but wanted to share that with you guys. So at least we're all looking and reading off of the same page. And also, it should be helpful to reference once the regular season is done. So without further ado, I said the thing about statistics from last week, so without further ado, please enjoy this episode. We are covering a lot. So thank you so much for tuning in, and let's think Shank. Welcome back. Hi. We are on the third place team in the Western Conference. It is Los Angeles Clippers time, baby. the living concept, the living, breathing concept of a theoretical concept that has become to manifest and take form. And oh my Lanta, it is beautiful. I cannot wait to talk about this team, both from a storytelling perspective, but not both from a whatever pros, cons, strengths, whatever. Like, here are the numbers, blah blah blah. But mostly, in addition, the qualitative storytelling part. So anyway, LA Clippers, let's do it. All right, third in the Western Conference right now. Overall this season, they are 36-17. As of New Year's, they are 17-5. Not bad. Overall net differential, it hasn't changed since fourth in the league. Their offensive rating is second overall. Since New Year's, it is first. Their defensive rating is 8th overall. Since New Year's, it has fallen off to 14th. Here is your starting unit. It is James Harden, Terrence Mann, PG, Kawhi, and Zubats. Off the bench, of course, Russell Westbrook, Norm Powell, Coffey, and Plumlee. Excuse me. So, let's jump into the season summary. What is the first and foremost storyline that has defined the Clippers this season? Easy, and maybe my favorite storyline, headline, I made across all 15 teams that I'm doing this for, like a madman. Harden, the little girl smiling in front of a house fire meme, arrow to becoming a contender cornerstone. If you haven't seen the meme, I highly recommend you press pause and go check it out. It is one of the earliest memes, I believe, that came out, and it's just a great fuzzy little meme trinket in the in the history of the internet. So, what do I mean by that? Well, let's press rewind really quick to a year ago. If you didn't know this, James Harden wasn't on the Clippers last year. He was on the Philadelphia 76ers, and he received quite a bit of praise, which isn't the norm for most public media figures and fans, for not taking his player option on his contract for the following season, which basically means he turned down getting paid the most for what would be this season. Basically, his current team, the Sixers, could pay him the most, more than any other team for this specific season. That's what a player option means. Excuse me. And if you turn it down, that means that you are planning to enter free agency at the end of what would be this season, and you're basically banking on, I'm going to prove it to the league that I'm worth more money than whatever that player option is, which has happened plenty of times. But it's also a risk, right? If things don't go your way, you get hurt, whatever, you could actually not make as much money as that player option would, be paying you for the season. So he got a lot of praise for turning it down. The idea was that he turned it down to give the Sixers franchise more cap room flexibility to sign a bigger free agent signing, right, for this season, because they're not paying James as much. And the general consensus was, this is not proven, to be clear, but the general consensus was, at the time of him turning down the option, there was an under-the-table handshake between him and his previous GM, buddy, pal, Daryl Morey, who was the GM of the Houston Rockets when Harden was at his peak and his MVP, year 2018 and all of that. Harden was treated like a king, obviously. He was lights out and all of those things. And when, everything shit at the fan in Brooklyn and Kyrie didn't want to get vaccinated and whatever, the move to Philadelphia from Brooklyn was a pretty natural recourse. People were like, oh yeah, Daryl Morey, your friend, go ahead and try it out. And I would have to think that Daryl was the only GM that could have gotten Harden to opt out of that player option at that time. He did not have nearly as much kind of trade value as he does right now at the time. And so, anyway, it's a show of good faith. And that quickly came to a halt this past offseason, this past summer, when apparently it became clear to Harden that Daryl was not going to give him that contract and pay him as much as Harden may or may not have been told he would when he opted out of that option last year during the season. That went about as well as you could expect. We got just moments for the ages as far as unprofessional disrespect and retribution and rebellion and revolution, whatever you want to call it. You got James Harden in China at like a high school basketball camp for seemingly no reason, at least as it relates to what he was doing there at that moment in China. He gets a microphone and says multiple times, Daryl Morey is a liar. There are a million cameras filming this. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never play another game under Daryl Morey. Holy shit. I don't know, in the realm of professional sports, I'm sure there are probably exceptions, worse ones maybe. Maybe Pat Riley got like clocked in the 80s or something. I don't know. But, excuse me, I guess he would have been a coach at that point. But you understand what I'm saying. That is insane. The general, it was a, not a general consensus, but it was literally a rationally and like in all seriousness discussed question of, is Harden even going to report to preseason or training camp after making those statements? And that is how I learned. I guess you can only go 30 days as a no-show according to NBA contracts before you start losing money. So everyone was like, he's going to show up on the 29th day and do what he did in Brooklyn and Houston, where he sabotaged the franchises to force his way out, which is really bad. He was literally throwing balls out of bounds to just get himself off the court, and to, double bird the boss. And amid all of that, he also posted like photos on his social media of like strippers with those stupid spark things in the clubs, lighting up signs that said "fuck Daryl Morey" in the club. And Harden is like posting this. I'm like, holy crap, man. Like most people, we were like, you are self-immolating. I just learned that term recently. You are lighting yourself metaphorically on fire as a trade asset. What is going to prevent you from doing this type of shit on any other team? And even worse, Daryl was supposed to be your guy. Okay, so fast forward to the start of the season. Harden, ropes up, plays a bit, and sure enough, got his wish. It became clear before he actually got traded that he was gunning for the Clippers, and that is for two reasons. One, if you did not know this, it might be a surprise, it's not Golden State. I know it was for me. But Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, is by far the richest owner in the NBA. Forget the fact that he has owned the Clippers for a minute now, and they are constantly clowned as the little brother franchise in LA and all of that thing, but I don't know. But that is number one. If you have a bazooka, bonkers, rich, filthy, disgusting, putrid, rich owner, great. Obviously, at this stage of Harden's career, he's lost his step and all of his whatever stuff from Houston. Still a phenomenal playmaker, which I'll get into, but if you have that set up, Harden is also from LA. Harden is clearly just trying to get paid. The Clippers is where he wanted to go. It became very clear that that was it. Not to mention the fact that he would be linking up with fellow veteran-ish stars who had been there for years in this very depressing, purgatory-esque Clippers concept team of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They, of course, linked up together after Kawhi won the 2019 championship with my Raptors. And then they made the Western Conference Finals the first year, and then for the following 3-4 years in a row, they literally could not be healthy enough to pose any kind of threat, and they were quickly becoming, a laughing stock. This is all a concept of a team. It's not an actual team. We haven't seen anything. Excuse me. Wait, I take that back. They only made it to the second round, I believe. I should double check that, actually. I'm pretty sure the Clippers as a franchise has not made the conference finals. Yeah, pretty sure that's it. But anyway, Harden shows up, and I don't know if you could have movie scripted a better redemption story than what ended up transpiring. Let me just start with some numbers here so I can keep this momentum going. I'm sorry, I know this is very, very storytelling, but I just actually think this is part of the magic that defines why the NBA as a league is so exciting and fascinating, is because we have drama queens and divas and crazy shit happen and a lot of money on the line and young guys becoming really good and old guys becoming less and less good but still feverishly trying to win, changing of the guards, yada, yada, yada. So all of a sudden, the Clippers have this new big three, and people are like, holy shit, how are they going to split the usage and the time with the ball, and all three of the guys need the ball, and there's no idea. You had a lot of very high-profile journalists, sports media members, figures trashing the trade, saying it was stupid. The Clippers are also going to be opening the brand new stadium in Inglewood, I think, starting next season, and so, everyone's like, Ballmer doesn't want to, open the stadium without stars, right? LA is just known as the land of the stars, the Hollywood shit, and all they do is pamper the fuck out of stars, and that's where all the stars end up wanting to go. It's because they're treated like royalty. Great. How did Harden integrate? He is, so far, these are what he's averaging, and then his team sort of impact on off. 18 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 45% from the field, 42% from 3, and 88% from the free throw line. The net on off with him on the court versus off the court, they are outscoring opponents by 15.7 points per possession, would put him in the 98th percentile. On offense specifically, they are 8.2 points better with him on the court, which would be 95th percentile. Effective field goal percentage is 4.5% better, 96th percentile. Free throw rate, 5.5 more attempts with him on the court, 96th percentile as well. And then the kicker is on defense. Defensive points per possession, opponents are shooting 7.5 points worse with him on the court. That is 94th percentile. And then effective field goal percentage is 2.1% worse with him on the court, 82nd percentile. Call this out because even with his MVP years and all of the years of dominance in Houston, the nonstop knock on Harden is that he didn't give a shit about defense, right? He was such an offensively talented and burdened player that you didn't have to look very far in the film to see him literally not, just undermine the entire defensive potency of all of his teams, and that is how it has worked. Incredible to see him put up at least these on-off numbers, and I just want to say as well, I'm not suggesting that he suddenly decided to become a lockdown Kobe defender. On-off is a helpful directional metric. Obviously, there are 4 other guys on the court with you at any given time. It's just, how many points did you outscore versus the opponent when you are just there, so it's not as simple as he is the reason causing all of that. But I still think, one, given the previous storylines and narratives surrounding him, I think it's just important to just call that out in general. I don't think anybody would fucking believe that if you even raise that at all to them. But 2, I just think the magnitude, and I guess the direction as well, but just the magnitude of how positively he has been on both ends of the court. Again, it's not all attributed to him, but you have to at least give some level of credence here. Because, again, of how good these at least just directional on-off numbers have been with him on and off. Okay. that is it for the first storyline for Harden. He is now clearly proven he is a contender, a cornerstone of this contending Clippers squad. Secondly, Kawhi and Paul George have never been healthier, never look so good. This is by far the most available Kawhi and Paul George have been since joining the Clippers. I don't know, as of resuming post All-Star break, so about a week ago now, exactly how many games they've missed. I do know, I believe it was just before the beginning of All-Star break. I remember hearing on the broadcast or something that Kawhi did have to sit in one of their last games before the break, and it was, I believe, his 6th. And so, we're on game like 50-something now, which is wild. PG as well. So they have just been very, very available, similar to like LeBron and Anthony Davis on the Lakers, which is another reason the whole Western Conference rat race is fantastic right now, is people are actually healthy, and it's crazy. Lastly is Terminator Reboot number 12, Kawhi Leonard. Really quick. Kawhi's numbers. 24 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists on 53% from the field, 45% from 3, 89% from the line. If you didn't know this, the 50-40-90 benchmark is basically the line of demarcation of MVP-ish conversation, like elite company reach that threshold of just shooting excellence, right? From overall the field, but 3, and then also the free throw line. Insane. And also just 45% from 3 is nuts. Paul George also deserves some recognition here. He is averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists on 46% shooting from the field, 40% from 3, and 91% from the free throw line. So just from 3, just to give you guys a really quick rundown picture of how the big 3 are looking, at least from shooting behind the arc, and I'll get to the team-wide metrics and stats in a second. Harden shooting 42% from 3, Kawhi 45, and Paul George 40. Yes, they are very talented shooters, but I don't know if you can get to those heights without the actual quality of these shots becoming a player. And I think what you're going to find here is that those 8 assists from Harden that he's averaging are the bulk of his value and impact that he is having, at least on the offensive end for the squad, is whether you like it or not. James Harden is a top 5 to 7 playmaker in the entire NBA. He can't hit his step-back threes at the same clip. He can't beat guys one-on-one and draw the fouls and whatever. But he is an incredible playmaker and table setter. That much will age like fine wine, and it is proving to do exactly that. All right. That is it for the season summary. Next, we're going to get into the offense and defense and some of the strengths and weaknesses there. Where I want to start is a quick click on to the offense on the court. So, like I had said, for the year, their offensive rating is overall 2nd. Their effective field goal percentage is 5th. Their 3-point makes is 1st in the league, and the whole team is shooting overall 40% from behind the arc. They are 6th in all mid-range, and they are 2nd in the short mid-range. Wow. So overall, similar, as you can see, to Oklahoma City, they don't miss a lot of shots. They are the best at making threes, and they are very good to very, very good in the mid-range. Thank you, Kawhi. And something interesting that stuck out to me is their half court. So their half court points per play is 4th in the entire league, which half court is at odds with transition scoring, putback scoring, free throw scoring, whatever. And that makes sense. obviously, with a table setter like Harden, he is very methodical in assessing and surveying matchups between his guy and the others, of course, and running certain actions and getting passes on time on target is really, really his strength, as opposed to more of that super ultra dynamic playmaking stuff you see from Luka, for example, where you have crazy skip passes and, you know, 2 steps and whatever else. Cool. So that makes sense. And something very, very specific that I want to call out here is probably my first really big kind of discovery here about the Clippers. So as I mentioned before, a lot of trepidation and doubt and cynicism around how are they going to get all of these guys enough usage, how are they going to get the ball in all of their hands enough for them to each be effective given each of their kind of play styles. And here is how they have landed. So the guy in the roster with the highest usage is Paul George at 26.3%, Kawhi Leonard at 25.5%, and then James Harden at 24.7%. Obviously, Harden came a little bit later. But I just need to call out, though, like, I don't know if you could actually get that any better. So PG is at 26, Kawhi 25.5, and then Harden at 25. Kind of crazy. I guess it's really a tip your cap to Ty Lue and his coaching staff, and obviously the broader team and roster for buying in and not yelling into a microphone in China and all of that. So I was just really impressed to see that. And if you tune into any of their games, it really is apparent how comfortable and how much trust there is between Harden and the other two when it comes to moving the ball around, tapping into some of their small ball stuff, which really is predicated on a lot of kind of dynamic movement versus self-initiation and creation. And then, of course, it is relentless outside shooting pressure. So I have here for one of the overall strengths as egalitarian usage is possible. What, in all caps, question mark, exclamation point, crazy. All right, next is, the defense. So things I found interesting. They are the best team in the league at defending the corner three, and they are the 5th best team in the league at defending threes overall. Probably no surprises there, considering you have 2 of the best two-way wings in the entire league in Kawhi and PG, but validating that. And then from a schematic standpoint, they are 4th in the league at limiting half-court points per play. So with your, I don't want to say old, but aging, stars and your big 3 or whatever on the team, it's very, very clear that their strengths lie in the half court, both on offense and defense. Those young legs that Oklahoma City, for example, doesn't necessarily have, really comes out to bear its wings in that sense. Okay. Next is I want to pivot to some of the weaknesses, and this probably won't also be a surprise, but again, just trying to paint a clear picture here of what I think is matters the most here. They are 16th in the league at scoring at the rim in terms of field goal percentage. They are 18th at offensive rebounding, and they are 21st in putback points per miss. So not great at finishing at the rim. I'm sorry, Zubac and Plumlee. Is what it is. They're not amazing at crashing the boards to offensively rebound, especially with their flying around kind of more on the small ball side of offense, at least. they're slightly below the middle of the pack on offensive rebounding, and then the putbacks is very, very closely related, unsurprisingly. Defensively, same story, pretty much. They are 17th in the league at defending rim field goals. Excuse me. They are second to last in the league at defending in transition, which is very interesting. In opponent points scored per possession in transition, they're 29th, so second worst. And then putback plays per miss, they are 23rd. So their opponents are generating opportunities to score putback points quite often on them. So probably nothing super groundbreaking there. So I had here transition defense is hard. Their strengths just aren't at the rim, and they have doubled down on that. I think that was part of the original proof of concept back in 2020 or whatever. They are going to kill you on the wings, and they are going to, both kill you on offense and suffocate you on defense with their premier wing players. I also like their, I know pretty much all I had for weaknesses right now. And I'll get to the takeaways and focus areas and lack thereof. I think for them it's mostly just stay healthy and ride the ship into the sunset. Depth is something that I really like. Obviously, PJ Tucker was not super stoked as far as his minutes were concerned earlier in the season. It is unfortunate, but I really think any sixth man of the year conversation, at least for the past multiple years, would not be complete without nodding to Norm Powell. He could average low 20s on a shitty team, just actually as a starter. And I think, I'll get into them next. But similar to some of these other guys on other, at least high volume shooting teams, like outside shooting teams, like Phoenix, for example, you see guys like Grayson Allen really, really benefit and prosper from the, just intense level of pressure and attention to some of his peers on the court. I kind of get that same sense with Powell when he's out there mixed in with other stars is, man, he is just able to come in there and start microwaving right off the bat. And also just the level of difficulty on some of his threes are really, really impressive that he's able to shoot so well. So I just want to give accolades there. And then, of course, last but not least, good old Russell Westbrook, who is just the, personification of the Energizer Bunny. I don't know if I completely understand how this dude's motor is so relentless and unwavering. But yeah, let me just pivot. I'll just pivot right into the intangible strengths here. One of them, towards the bottom though, one of them is the bench juice stuff, and Russ is the kind of guy who can come in off of the bench and radically change the energy and the atmosphere of a game without even needing to be a real scoring threat. He has some of the best defensive instincts and just knows for the ball and rebounds and all of those things, which similar to Minnesota and some of those guys, I just really think he is naturally just really, really good at that. I don't know who his coach was. He's also from LA. So is Kawhi and PG, if you didn't know that. I feel like half of this team is from LA, so they all just might be also just happy to be together there, especially as well. But I really respect Russ. Obviously last year, coming over midway through the season after an extremely intense and unfortunate unfortunate situation with the Lakers. I'm really glad that he accepted this role coming off of the bench, and honestly, for what it's worth, he is in a lot of ways an ideal guy you want coming off of the bench. Obviously, he cannot even microwave score, but that's why you have a Norm Powell on the team. You just have him there to just bark at everybody, run really fast, and rebound. Like, rebound and run really, really fast and hard. Really fast and hard. Okay. And also, how his physical abilities and just his physical tools are still so intact and incredible are insane. Like, some of the times he goes up for rebounds and I'm like, you just might have jumped like 48 inches off of the ground and you're like, what, like 35 now? It's wild how, I guess, good care of his body he actually takes care of. I don't know if he gets enough credit for that, but there you go. Other intangible strengths off the top, of course, you have talent, is what it is, and all these old head coaches and journalists and reporters and whatever will, tell you that, especially in the postseason, that is often the difference maker. I think my shadow dark horse candidate in disproving that is probably Oklahoma City this year. Obviously, they are extremely talented as well, but the whole star power narrative, we'll see. Secondly is experience. So Russ is an MVP, Harden is an MVP, Kawhi is a Finals MVP and champion, Paul George is a 9-time All-Star or something. He's been to the second round of the playoffs with Indiana and getting rocked by LeBron every year, but that is that. Zubac has been on the Clippers since the 90s, so he's at least been to the second round with them. Don't have any idea about Plumlee or really anyone else. Norm Powell, I don't know. I know he was on Toronto. I'm not sure how far he went, but you get my point. At least the guys who will be given the opportunity to have the biggest impact have a glut and a wealth of playoff experience, which is very important, especially for going deep. Third, I already mentioned and covered, is the bench juice stuff. I truly believe that is a huge advantage for them. And the intangible weakness, only have one, but it is colossal. And wouldn't you guess it, it is health. So I am not going to say that if Kawhi goes down, they are sunk. I would say that for Phoenix, for example. If Durant goes down, they are 100,000% sunk. I don't even see them making it out of the first round without Durant and all of their three guys, which I will get to next. I apologize, foreshadowing. But it is obviously an absolutely colossal deal that these guys stay healthy. But again, that margin of kind of error, if you will, if the health, has some choppiness or rough waters, I do think that they can put up a much better fight than some of the other more veteran-laden title-hunting teams. Looking at you, Lakers and Golden State, as well as Phoenix and whatever. Cool. And Milwaukee, by far, actually. So, great. Main takeaways. Harden, the little girl smiling in front of a house fire meme, arrow over into becoming the contender cornerstone. Incredible story, and I just really think, Harden being in a contract year, also, whether he wants to admit it or not, on a redemption story arc right now, that matters. And something I forgot to mention, another kind of anecdote that stuck out to me that supports that idea or conclusion is when Zubac came onto Paul George's podcast. This is probably, like a month and change ago or something. He was asked by PG, and I had seen this on Twitter as well, but I really liked the elaboration and additional detail provided. He was basically asked by Paul George about when Harden came over and, joined the team this year. what it was like and how did he feel about being asked / told to stay after practice to just practice pick and rolls with Harden, just to build up that chemistry and tendencies and familiarity with each other. Harden, of course, is, again, whether you want to admit it or not, he is one of the greatest pick and roll guard generals, whatever, in the league, and probably for a lot of this, century, honestly. And that was obviously noticed by a lot of the guys on the team, and that was awesome. And also, it was not just with Zubac. It was like Plumlee and Daniel Tice too. But one of the things that Zubac mentioned that really stuck out to me was, and I don't know exactly what the reference point was in him saying this, but he basically said, I did not actually realize how methodical and how much and how fast the mental processing for elite point guards, what level that has to be at to be super effective. And he was like, yeah, James was basically asking me all these questions, and the more we talked, the more I realized the reason he's super slow in the half court and is very methodical and slow and shit is he is not only surveying the matchups and thinking in his head, right, who do I got to get going, who is struggling, what kind of shots are we trying to do, the actual actions and fundamental initiation piece, but he talked about the actual individual preferences of each of the players as well. So it's one thing to know the play. It's another thing to know the players in the play and what their unique preferences are. And he was like, oh, yeah, so Powell likes the ball right here at this speed, and he's right in the play. It's going to be right there. And this is exactly, where the ball should be. And if that doesn't happen for whatever reason, it's bam, 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 bam. And it's two sides of each different decision. What does the player want? And then what does the play dictate? And so it kind of got me fired up, one, to just hear an NBA player apparently have a slight little aha moment a little bit, where not only are they kind of growing closer as a camaraderie comrade to their whatever comrades, but just the way the game is played at the highest of the highest levels. Obviously I'm not there, but it was just cool because I think I would have noticed something like that as well, and it would have left a similar impression on me. And again, just the fact that the whole time Zubac is describing this, it was clear that it was coming from a place of not just respect or admiration. It was probably just respect. It wasn't just oh my God, you're great, but holy crap, you are actually really, really good at this playmaking stuff. And it makes your effectiveness kind of right there, it's just making a lot of sense. And then of course that coupled with the fact that Harden is invested enough to be I'm not fucking around. Zubac, you're sticking around. You spending the next 45 minutes, just you, me, all the centers and me, all four, whatever of us, and we're just going to do this over and over and over again on different coverages until we get this down. So not only is that, I think, a reinforcing whatever anecdote to whatever reinforce to take about James Harden's, proficiency at the playmaking position, but I think it just goes to show how invested he is, plainly speaking. I'm sure, again, whether he wants to admit it or not, he realizes how much he fucking just shorted his own value overall, with the whole shenanigans with Daryl Morey. And it did not help linking up for the super team, all of 16 games him, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving played in Brooklyn. And not to mention his age and everything else, which doesn't make him unique, but the fact that I believe he wants to ride out into the sunset on the Clippers. Kawhi signed his extension, earlier in the year, so I think he's on the same boat. PG is the only one who hasn't yet. We'll see where that comes. I would be shocked if he isn't re-signed and shored up. So that is the last thing I will say about the Harden contender cornerstone thing. I just think that's awesome. Secondly, like I said, Kawhi and PG healthiest ever for now. Fingers crossed. And then last but not least, Ty Lue. The guy seems to get so much respect around the league, and it is hard, I feel like, personally, to identify and recognize exactly how and where that is. I know that you'll hear on broadcasts and other things about his ability to do in-game switches and shake things up and things like that, where you can, I guess, kind of follow. But even when you hear the guy talk in post-game interviews, he's pretty soft-spoken. He sounds like a normal person. I know that that's not whatever. That's probably not the right way to say that. But I say that maybe in contrast to, I don't know, like Joe Mazzulla on the Celtics, who, sure, normal person, but, I mean, his fucking eyes are like this, and he's, like, clearly just, like, computer braining it. And, I'm not trying to tear that dude apart, but literally Ty seems like a dude that would just roll up to a shitty dive bar down the street from me, and he would just probably be down to just, like, talk shop and be really chill and normal. And I think that, obviously, it's a big reason I imagine him and Bron kind of get along super well, because he's very open-minded. He seems a little more go with the flowy. All right, LeBron, you need that, you need this. Okay, word. Don't worry about that, word. Which you can see at the extreme probably presents its own risks, but then that just brings me back to my last and final takeaway point here, which is about the egalitarian usage as possible. I can't lie, I was definitely in the classroom or class of thought right around the time that Harden was traded, that it very well could be not only bad, but a potential disaster scenario. I know Kawhi is very soft-spoken. I think PG is as well. I think Harden as a function of his position on the floor, but his backstory of just being an entire team himself, like I feel like he was just going to present much more kind of like stronger voice and presence and whatever. And I just, obviously the numbers paint a story like this, but even from the eye test, it seems like probably more than his entire career, or at least since Oklahoma City, he seems to actually trust his teammates to like do heavy lifting, which I know it's a cop-out kind of with Brooklyn, but they literally didn't even play enough together for that to really manifest. I'm sure that was going to be a similar scenario, but it's just great to see it all come to form now. Okay. Focus areas for the last third of the season. Number 1, stay healthy at all costs. Don't really have to elaborate there. And then 2 is peak Harden's confidence going into the playoffs. I'm so glad I reminded myself by doing all this ahead of time. Another thing in the redemption arc stockpile, if you will, for Harden. If you didn't know this, he is pretty renowned for not performing at his best in the postseason. He is, I don't even know what he is in all-time scoring, but it is like 99%, 98% from the regular. He's a tremendous regular season performer, is what it is, and has had some real ball-dropping kind of games in the postseason, especially back on the Rockets teams, when they would kind of basically get LeBron-toed by Golden State. And so to build off of the egalitarian usage stuff and the eye test with the trust of his peers, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am personally rooting for Harden to kind of help fight off some of those narratives. And I really, really do think with the parity in the Western Conference and everything else, I think this might be his best opportunity to do so, honestly. All right. So for floor, I have the Clippers at round 1, as always. I know I keep saying that, and that, in my opinion, is for good reason. I just checked the updated standings. It looks like they have moved from 3rd to 4th. They're a game behind Denver now, but the overarching thing for me is that they are most likely going to be fighting in that 3-4 or 4-5 thing, and that is just going to be really tough. Like, they were 3rd, Denver was 4, and then you had, you don't want to happen is like the Nuggets, apparently according to all the pods now, is they're not necessarily hunting for home court, although I'm sure they are. Whatever. Hunting, okay, maybe not hunting, but whatever. You don't want to be in a 4-5 matchup with Denver in the first round. I'm telling you that right now. That would not be good. If they take off their foot off the gas and they figure out whatever peak Denver looks like this year, and they're like, you know what, Peyton Watson, go ahead. Christian Brown, we need you. Get in the game. Jokic is going to play 20 minutes a game. They drop some games at the end, and then all of a sudden it's, oh shit, we're going to altitude in the first round. So that wouldn't be good. Even still right now, it would be a 4-5 matchup against Phoenix, which I also I don't know. That is kind of a weird little yin-yang mirrored matchup thing, but we'll see. So just to, play it safe, I suppose. Again, every matchup is so significant. That's why every single regular season game from here on out for the Western Conference, it's literally the playoffs, basically. So round 1 is the floor, and then ceiling, I'm going title. So you got the talent, you got the juice off the bench, you got the experience. You pray for health, and again, Kawhi has been nails. These guys are apparently playing the most in sync and egalitarian and team maximizing, at least offense, that at least the conceptual Clippers have. I'll take a look at the actual matchups closer to the end there, but listen. I think that there would just be some hilarious poetic, not justice, but poetic mirroring if we had a Clippers-Boston finals where you just have these two studded wings, kind of guard power, but on the Clippers side you have a lot of offense and then you have a lot of defense on the other side. I do not know how they would stop Porzingis, to be fair, but you know what, whatever. I don't know who would stop Norm Powell, kind of, on Boston, because they have no depth, but I don't know. Just an example. That would just be funny. They seem like celestial twins or something like that. But that is all, guys, for the Clippers. Thank you so much for tuning back in. Hopefully that was insightful, and we are going to keep the ball rolling. Stay tuned. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It really, really means a lot. Clearly, I care a lot, and it was a lot of work, but a lot of fun producing each one of these episodes here. And so if you want to support us, if you want to yell at us, if you want to just tell us, a proverbial pat in the back, it goes a long way. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkShank, and you can email us at TheThinkShank. I'm Skyler Reinhardt, and you can find me on Twitter at ReinhardtSkyler and Instagram at SkylerSamReinhardt. Thank you all so much again, and so excited for the rest of the season, guys.